What's going on, people? So last week I did that performance review of the Ultraboost 21s, and I said something about, yeah, maybe this week or next week I'll get around to that other one about the Vapormax 2020s, right? And well, I'm kind of running out of days, so I had to go ahead and knock this out so that way I can at least stay true to my word. So that's what we're doing here today, right? Should be fairly quick and to the point, I want to say, but then again, every time I say that, it ends up not being, so I'm just going to take that back and pretend that last 30 seconds of the video didn't happen. But either way, this right here, this is mostly what we're talking about. The Vapormax 2020, this is the black and white colorway. I do also have that some kind of glacier blue or something one, which I kind of like a little better in some ways as far as colors go, but you know, that really doesn't affect how they perform, right? So we're just going to leave that to the side. But here's the thing. I ran a lot back in April, and then just to kind of get them broken in, and then I was trying to get back to that and get everything knocked out, but I wasn't able to do that until last weekend. So Saturday morning I went out, I ran a mile in these and a mile in these, and then like a quarter in these and a quarter in these on like a little on an indoor track, because it's better than running on a treadmill personally, right? And I like to make sure I get both sides of that so I can kind of get a good idea for how they really are, right? So I did that on Saturday, and then I did that whole thing again on Sunday. The only difference on Sunday was that I left the threes at home and I brought the 21s instead, for the full comparison thing, right? So that's the bit of the backstory. Now let's get into the whole thing about how it actually worked out. So first off, overall, right, this is a pretty solid running shoe. I will say it's not a real running shoe, at least not in my opinion and seemingly in the opinions of a few other people, because it's just not really made for that so much, right? Now, when these first started, yeah, like the Vapormax line and all that, they replaced the Air Maxes as like the new running shoes of the year or whatever you want to call that. But over time, at least with this particular model, they've kind of gone more to like a lifestyle sort of thing. So it's almost like, from what I'm told, like the Air Force One originally was a basketball shoe and still is pretty much the same as it was then. So I guess that makes it still a basketball shoe. But are you going to go play in that, or are you going to go get you some Kyries or some Jordan 35s or something like that, right? So anyways, this right here, I don't see it as really a running shoe. I see it more as a shoe that you can run in. Put it in the Presto and Huarache category. But anyways, so doing this review, there's kind of like a reason not to do it, but there is kind of a reason to do it. So figure out how you feel and then just do or don't watch, I guess. Anyways, here's the thing, right? Starting with this here midsole, right? The midsole, like I said before, it is really good, like a lot better than these right here. Because these, the break-in period was just, it was a bit, right? These, it's almost non-existent. So going out on the track, if you want to buy something and be able to get right into it, that gives you a pretty nice advantage as far as I'm concerned, right? And then just actually running in it, it feels, because it's a little more connected than the last one is kind of disjointed, right? You can kind of see there or whatever, it looks more streamlined, right? So that, it does kind of help with a bit of a more fluid motion and everything like that. And then they are also smaller, so I believe that probably helps as well as far as like the height and everything. So overall, the retooling that they did down here really helps as far as like the running aspect of it. The upper itself, though, that I would kind of have to give the edge to either of these other two, right? Because this, it just doesn't have that that running tuned knit to it, you know what I'm saying? It's there, it's decent, it kind of holds your foot in place kind of for the most part, but it just doesn't feel right. I'm not quite sure how to articulate that any better, but when you look at actual running shoes and then you look at something like this, you'll go, oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of see that. If you're like a regular running person, you like to run in actual running shoes, that'll kind of make some sense to you. If you're just more buying these as a casual thing, then none of this even matters. But anyway, so you got that going on, right? So it's fine though. Like running in them, it felt fine. I didn't have any real complaints. I just wouldn't give them the nod over other things. Hopefully that makes sense. And now, the part that I don't like, the part that just doesn't make sense to me, this block that they have on here, right? This whole section, really, I'm not a fan of it, because when you're running in these, right, This block, it's kind of just uncomfortable to be like on your foot when your foot is trying to like run and bend and all that stuff. It's not great, right? It's kind of, it can be a little painful at times too. Even that's even with just casual wear, at least for me. I don't know how everybody else is feeling about them, but that's the thing that I am not okay with. So you got that thing going on. And then along the sides here where you have those black strips, it is just a little bit stiff in those areas. I compared it to like a fingernail file or something to that effect, you know, so it's not like a solid piece of whatever in there, but it's just enough to kind of dip down on the comfort level, right? So that, not a fan of. But past that, everything else feels really good. They're light, they're breathable, all that good stuff. So even though I still wouldn't necessarily say like they are a great running shoe, it's pretty solid, right? It is, it's pretty solid. Now, the other thing here about these is just that the price, of course, I feel like I should touch on that. $220, yeah, like don't pay full price for these. Like it's not worth it overall. But now as a comparison, another comparison though, I was kind of getting into like the lower area here, like the midsole and all that stuff, and I think that's what does it here. But one of the differences that I noticed was, even though I liked the feeling of the upper on these a lot more, the Flyknit 3s, the midsole here, at least on corners and stuff, these, it felt a little sketchy, like I was just gonna lose it at any moment if I ran too fast. These seem to feel a little bit better going into those turns and stuff. So I was looking at this earlier, and I can kind of see how that might come to be or whatever. And it could also be partly of the upper construction too, maybe somewhere in here. But overall, that's just something that I remember mentioning during my reviews of this versus, or excuse me, of these versus the Ultraboost 19s. And it's still a factor, but not so much on these. It's a factor on these, not these. So there's that. And now as far as like other comparisons go, going on with this right here. So just running, normal or whatever, I can't really say that these were like that much worse. Overall, I didn't like them as much compared to these, sure. But a lot of that comes down to this here piece right there and the upper, right? This, it has an upper that just holds your foot a little better. It hugs it in all the right places, not too tight, you know? So it just gives you that extra security. And I did really like the heel impact area with this extra boost in there. It just, and with that slant, it kind of helps you feel like you're being propelled forward a little bit more. So it could be a mind thing, I don't know. But when I was running, it just felt so much smoother. And these have that retool torsion system down on the bottom, which kind of connects the front and the back a little smoother. So that's probably a factor too. But all that together, it just kind of makes me lean towards these as the running shoe out of these two, right? This one, they're not really making these anymore. I just brought them out to, if you're familiar with running in these, you have some kind of baseline to go on with what you could expect out of this. Now, even though I'm not a huge fan of this because of this right here, the Ultraboost, the Vapormax 21 is supposed to be going back to just normal stuff up here, right? Normal laces and whatnot. None of this weird crap going on. And if that's the case, and those are, I don't know, as good as these are, these gaps between these shoes should dwindle quite a bit, at least in my opinion, right? Now, at that point, it'll probably come down to what you personally like more, you're right? But I can't really talk too much about that because those shoes haven't come out yet, and I try not to speculate too much on things. But I am looking forward to trying the 21s out when those do come around, because as much as I dislike this, I do actually overall like the shoe. So man, if that one complaint that I have goes away, that's going to be a pretty good thing, right? I mean, not necessarily for like the bank account or whatever, but as far as like my feet, they're going to be pretty happy about it. So there's that. But yeah, so wrapping things up real quick, overall, I'll just hit you with like the brief highlights, whatever, for those of you who just want to get all that without rewatching the video or something. This one right here, right? It's good. It's not a true running shoe by my standards, but it's good enough for it if that's what you want to do. Personal opinion, I would go with this right here because ultimately it just feels better overall. If you're used to running in these and you liked this, you're probably going to like this just as much, maybe more, depending on how that part goes. Also, one other thing to mention, the tongue, at first it loosens up over time and it gets broken in, but it does kind of dig into the upper area of your ankle, lower area of your ankle, like, where your foot would be bending. So that was a little annoying, but it kind of goes away. So just something to think about if that bothers you when you first start wearing these up here and it digging into your feet. Just give it some time, right? That's the one thing that I'll say. But otherwise, these are pretty solid. Just, again, don't pay that full price, because that is not something to do. Past that, I don't think that I left anything out, but if I did, which is possible, go ahead and leave a question down below or a comment or something. So now that this is out of the way, I think up next is, unless those 21s come out soon, probably something from Brooks or Asics. I'm not quite sure. I need to kind of wrap my mind around some things, but we'll see what happens. For now, from me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I have an unboxing to do. Yeah, so that's what I have to do. Later, people.